I'm here with my friend Lindsay. We're actually family members, and we're on a family fishing trip and camping trip right now. So we're in our camping clothes, rocking that out. Lindsay is going to talk to us about being a mom and also a woman called to ministry. So Lindsay, thanks for sitting down with me.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
Okay, so Lindsay, you are a mom, obviously, and a wife, and you have a full-time job as a public school teacher.
Yes.
And at your last church that you just recently moved from, you were serving as the interim music minister there, the interim music leader. Not because they didn't want you full-time, but because you had another job. And so you had your plate pretty full. But that's common for women who are in ministry to also be working another job, like a lot of times it's a volunteer position. So I think a lot of people can relate to being a mom, having a job, being called to a ministry also, because a lot of ministries aren't even paid positions,
Right,
you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so I know that can be a tricky balance for women. Tell us about that.
So I feel like, first of all, starting out, I feel like, ministry is a word that sometimes can be not misleading, but just miscommunicated or misinterpreted, because as Christians, we're all called to ministry
True.
in some form or another.
Right.
So now, have I ever been called to music ministry, like to be a full-time music minister? No, I had never felt that calling. So when they approached me about being the interim, it was, I had to pray about it, and I just thought, there's this hole in our church right now because our music minister had left, and it's a service that I can fulfill because I have music background and training. And so I did feel called to fill that need at our church at the time. I will say, though, that I ended up really enjoying it so much more than I thought I would. I really took it on thinking, okay, yes, Lord, I will do this because it's a need that I can fulfill. And I knew that it would be difficult to sit out in the congregation when they had this need and I'm sitting there as someone who can fulfill it. So that was definitely interesting to see how God changed my heart with that ministry position. And I did enjoy it a lot more than I was expecting to, but it is difficult having 3 children. I have a very supportive husband who helps out, and like you said, getting them to church, when you're kind of on, that's one of your work days.
Right.
And on Sunday morning. So, he would help get them ready, and we would get there together, and he also accompanied me a lot on the guitar, so he was supportive in many different ways.
Which is a new thing for him, which is super fun, because
so
he
it
was
was
always
really fun.
totally an athlete.
Right.
And not a musician since
Right.
like the middle school years.
Yeah.
You know,
and
with that excluded.
Yes, and it was kind of cool how God used him learning that instrument at the exact time that I was like taking over, because I had him play for me so much more than I thought I would, because it was just we could practice at home. If I was in town, he was in town. Like, we were always there together, so it was perfect. But yeah, it is difficult. However, I will say that always being involved in church, before you even have kids, when you have the one, you adjust, and when you have your second, you just continue to adjust. So I didn't feel like it was. I didn't feel like I was drowning, when I took on that position. I mean, yes, there was a little bit more preparation and stress of, planning services every week and having to, be there, and but it was not something that I wasn't used to, because that ministry was kind of already, I guess, involvement in the church was already part of my life with having children. So, I mean, I always taught Awana or Sunday school or sang in the choir, whatever. So
and you just adjust, kind of like you said,
do.
like having another child, you just adjust.
Yes. It's very,
like, this is what God's given to me, and now I divide my time and dole that out.
Yes, it's very much a gradual adjustment as you expand your family,
Adjustment, and how you have the responsibility of getting your children to church, and you have little ones who can drop off in the nursery, but also you might have a praise team to practice with, or whatever your responsibility was when you got there each Sunday. And so how can the local church, and that looks different, of course, for different moms in different ministries, different families called to ministry. And I also should add, I loved what you said earlier about how, like, as Christians, we are all called to ministry. We're really just called to different ministry roles.
Yes.
Bob Goff, the author of Love Does, talks about how, like, we don't really even have to call it, like, I'm going on a mission trip. We can just say we're being kind. We can just say we're loving others, because that's what we've been called to do.
Right. Missions,
like, were you called to missions? Yeah, we all were, since Jesus said to.
Yeah.
And
Great
so,
Commission. Yeah.
The Great Commission.
And so
we're all called to
Haiti,
ministry.
some people stay here in town.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're all called to ministry, and different ministry roles look differently. So when you were adjusting to this ministry role, how could the local church support you in that?
So they were very encouraging, and at the time that I took over as the music minister, I prefer to call myself the worship leader.
Worship leader?
Yes, I felt a little bit weird about the whole music minister word. I don't know why, but anyway, so I just referred to myself as the worship leader. But anyway, so when I began leading the worship service, we were a very traditional Baptist church, very traditional music-wise. So I kind of used my time there to transition it a little bit more to a little more contemporary or blended style of worship. And I just got so much positive feedback from all ages of the church, and they were just so encouraging. And
that's great.
And you know, they knew I was a busy mom, and my choir members, oh my goodness, were so supportive of me. Just being there every Sunday night for practice, and then standing up behind me in the choir loft, supporting me in the service each week. But yeah, when any time a church member was, if we were somewhere and I was by myself because maybe my husband couldn't be there because he was supervising because he has a busy job himself, and you know, they would step in and help me with my children, and you know, because it is hard as a mom when you have 3 little ones running around and you're trying to be in charge of something. So they were just very, I guess the biggest way they showed me their support was just encouragement weekly, you know, all the time. I mean, sending me cards in the mail, sending me Facebook messages, and just being there, you know,
just showing up.
Yeah, with, like I said, my choir members just being there and
being like, we're in this together.
Yes, and then
that's good.
And then just helping out when they saw that I was like a little frazzled maybe at times with my little ones. So it was they were very supportive and helpful with that.
And just showing up. That's
good.
Yeah. If she was sitting with us, who would say, I feel called to ministry in this season, but I also feel very called to motherhood, because certainly we can be called to a ministry role in any season. Like, that does happen, that God could say, I want you to lead the church choir right now, or I want you to organize Vacation Bible School. You know, like, we've been there.
Right.
And so even though you have little ones, I think the first time, you probably know this, the first time I directed Vacation Bible School, I was expecting, and then my baby was 8 weeks old the week of VBS, when VBS first started. And I had postpartum congestive heart failure in between those 2 things. And so, you know, like, I knew it was something that God had called me to, but I knew I felt pulled very thin. And so a support system was so important at that time. But what would you say to the mom who says, I feel very called to both, but I don't feel like I'm adequate. I don't feel like I'm enough in either one?
I can totally relate to the VBS thing. I wasn't in charge of it, but I remember leading music.
Oh, yeah.
With one of our good friends, and I had a 6-week-old baby.
Right.
Yes, and she was my second. But yeah, so totally can relate to that. But okay, so for the mom who feels like she can't do either well because you are spread so thin, I would just say I'm going to go back to a comment I made at the beginning about how we as Christians are called to ministry from the get-go, and so if that's a part of your life before you even have children, I feel like it is an
easier transition.
It is an easier transition. So let's say you're like, well, I kind of messed that up because I wasn't involved in church, and now I feel called to, and so you don't have that transition time.
Yeah.
You know, it needs make it a smooth and slow transition. You know, don't take on Vacation Bible School leader that first time or whatever, you know, teach the class the first time or something, or find something to start out with small so that you don't feel overwhelmed and stretched thin, and then gradually build.
I like that, like transition into it.
Yeah, allow yourself that transition.
If you were doing it before, then it might be easy to keep continuing, you know. Like when you're expecting and you're allowed to exercise, you're allowed to continue doing what you were doing before. So like when I had a 3-year-old, I was allowed to keep lifting him because my body was used to that, you know, and a marathon runner could continue doing a lot of what she was doing because that's what her body's used to. But I wouldn't take on running because my body wouldn't be used to that.
Probably not. That when we have children and I think it is important to be a part of a ministry because more than just being there for them and being their mom, I want them to see me minister and be a part of ministry. Like, I really think it was neat for my girls to see that season of my life where I was up on stage leading worship, leading the church, serving the church, and also like they got to see me worship, because when we're in the congregation and we're standing in pews all facing the stage, like they don't get to see me worship, and I just want them to, grow up and learn how to be free in worship and to see their moms be a part of a ministry.
To be an example.
So, yes, I know some moms are like, oh, but I need to be there for them and I need to minister to them. Yeah, but they need to see you minister to the church or to the community or, whatever.
There is.
To know that it does need to be a part of your life, and it is important. Like I said, as Christians, we are all called to ministry in some form or another. So.
And I think it's okay if they feel like maybe for their particular family, what their family needs, what's best for them right now is to be in the pew with the child. Like, I think there are weeks when my children need me to do that.
Right.
And if that's what is best for their family, because families need different things, because children need different things, and spouses have different jobs, or maybe they don't have a spouse, or, and there are a lot of factors there.
Yeah.
But if that's a place that you can lead, and that's a place that you can be an example, I think that's good. I've been able to go to Haiti the last 3 summers, and the first summer, which you well know, and the first summer that I went, our oldest child had just turned 4 and was turning 5, I guess. Maybe he was turning 5, and said, Mommy, maybe if you teach me some more things about Jesus, I can go and tell other people about Jesus too. And I thought, okay, because I had a lot of guilt about that at the time, but this is getting through. Well, they're seeing me tell people about Jesus, and they're feeling like that's something they can do.
And, me being the worship leader, it was not forever. I knew it was just an interim. And so, because I don't feel called to be in that sort of position full time, or
some things are just for a season.
Right, because I am a mom, and I have another full-time job, and they do need a mom around, especially with a dad who is, busy with his full-time job.
Right.
So it was nice, that they got to see that for a season, and then I'm sure, and I'm continuing ministry in my normal ways of being involved in church or whatever, and then if another opportunity, something like that, comes up, they'll get to see it again. They'll see it periodically off and on in larger roles or smaller roles throughout.
Yes. And in the same way, we can look at that with missions. I personally am not called right now. God has not laid it on my heart or my family's heart for us to do full-time missions and to live in Haiti full-time. But there are other families that make that work so well, and seeing how seamlessly they do missions with their children there. But that wouldn't work with the dynamic of my family right now with my husband's job and what he is also called to do in ministry, and so all families are different. But I'm so glad that you took the time to sit down and talk to us about this. And so hopefully this will be an encouragement to moms who are called in, whether it's teaching Sunday school or whatever they're called to do in their local church or outside their local church, ministering to their neighbors or whatever, that they can do that alongside motherhood. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay.